Hello viewers, welcome to yet another edition of Raxio Hour, where we bring you all the latest developments happening at Uganda's first Tier 3 and truly neutral enterprise-grade data center facility. This week, we explore the subject of Uganda's data protection and privacy laws in an exclusive interview with Mr. Kenneth Muhangi, the managing partner at KTA Advocates and recipient of the prestigious Partner of the Year accolade at the 2020 African Legal Awards. Take a look.
My name is Kenneth Muhangi. I'm the managing partner at KTA Advocates. I represent Uganda at the center of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. My portfolio being drones. I consult for the World Bank. I consult for Ministry of ICT, and I'm a lecturer of law. I teach ICT and intellectual property. The main one is the Data Protection and Privacy Act, which was passed last year in 2019, with the regulations that I'm not sure if they're out yet, but we discussed them a short while ago. Away from that, there were other laws that had also provided for data protection and privacy, things like the Anti-Money Laundering Act, things like the Electronic Transactions Act, with its Electronic Signatures Act and the regulations therein. We also had the agency banking regulations that were looking at data and privacy in the banking sector, specifically for agency banking. And then the Computer Misuse Act, the Regulation of Interception of Communications Act. Those are some of the acts that I can really think of offhand that govern data, but our core regulation is the Data Protection and Privacy Act. Data has now cemented its role as a leader in commerce and in business. There's no business now that does not deal in data. So when it comes to the applicability of data, I think there's no facet of industry or life itself at the moment that does not rely on or use data to be able to transact or to sell goods or services. In regards to the law, I think we're still laissez-faire. I'm not sure how many companies. I can only perhaps count just off my fingertips the companies that have data protection policies, the entities that have a data protection officer as mandated by the new Data Protection Act, entities that have privacy policies, terms of use, entities that are intentional about getting the right cybersecurity software or tools to be able to ensure that data is kept securely, entities that keep their data with paid cloud services rather than the open shared cloud services. We have entities like Raxio now that are trying to be or that are the leaders now in data, because I think other than Raxio, the only data center that I'm aware of is the NITA data center, which is in Jinja. So I think we still have a little bit of laxity from the private sector and from the public sector as well in embracing these laws. But overall, I think since it has permeated every level of society, it's only a matter of time before we start getting cases, before we start getting alerts, before we start getting problems that come up with people realizing that they need to follow these laws. And since NITA has also been mandated as the new data protection officer, or the new data protection agency, with data protection officers therein that are able to oversee the roles of the other data protection officers in the different private entities or government entities. I believe that will also perhaps make quicker the demand for compliance with the law and with the regulations therein. Ensure that you comply with the law. So one of the principles of data protection is ensuring that you have adequate security. When you understand how important data is, you'll also ensure that the platforms that you use, you'll ensure the software that you use is very secure and can stand the test of time or can stand any tests. Because right now, business is global. We don't only look at business in terms of the Ugandan concept, but in terms of the East African, and then the international concept. So just because, gone are the days when we used to say, this is only for Uganda, or this is only for East Africa. No. Every single business now operates online, at least the businesses that leverage data or use data the way that it's supposed to be used. So if you're going to transact online, have the same security models or mechanisms or procedures or systems, two-factor authentication and more, that the banking sector uses and the payment and fintech sector uses. So always use the best practice in terms of software. The number 3, perhaps I'd also say hire the right people. Of course, the law asks you to have a data protection officer who is mandated to ensure that your organization complies with data, that whoever asks to be forgotten, for the data to be deleted, that is complied with, and that every organization follows particular principles. Now, without that, again, NITA will come after you and fine you. And then maybe number 5, I understand there is an element of cognitive bias on my part, but have a good lawyer, a lawyer that understands understands the law, understands data protection, understands privacy, and is able to advise you should you fall into opprobrium or anything that perhaps may cause you problems with the data protection agency. So I think that is the advice that I'll be able to give companies. If you have a world-class data center, as I've said, we're operating in a global market. So it's important to also have a data center or a company that understands the facets of data protection, understands the nuances of data security, and is able to keep your data securely within these geographical confines. That is, I think, a very important topic. That also really makes it easier for us to have FDIs, foreign direct investments within Uganda, where you have companies coming in to invest knowing that we have adequate resources, we have adequate infrastructure. Whenever we're looking at infrastructure, usually we look at infrastructure only for roads, for schools, hospitals, but we never look at infrastructure for internet services, for example, infrastructure for telecoms, and now infrastructure for data. So having a world-class data center feeds into all these facets, and since Uganda is now pushing towards the 4th Industrial Revolution, and a government is intentional about creating committees that are looking at how best we can leverage this data. I mentioned before that I represent Uganda, the center of the 4th Industrial Revolution at the World Economic Forum. But these are discussions that we have now. And personally, I am proud when I'm speaking at these forums and I'm letting other people know that, oh, we have world-class data centers that are located here that operate at the same level of scale as entities that would perhaps operate in Europe or the rest. So there's no need for companies to send their data that side. We can store their data here, and we have the capacity to be able to do so.
Moving on, news broke out earlier this month about Raxio Data Center officially becoming the first Tier 3 Uptime Institute certified data center facility in Uganda. We bring you a press review of the news coverage across national and international media.
It is against that background that Uganda's digital economy has been given a major boost with the introduction of Raxio Data Center that has opened operations in Uganda.
The logic around data centers and what we're building is basically we are establishing a core for the internet backbone in Uganda.
Raxio is Uganda's first enterprise-grade data center facility and is officially running the first Tier 3 certified data center in the country after receiving Uptime Institute Tier 3 certificate.
Upon completion, the data center will be a centerpiece of infrastructure supporting the growth and digitalization of the Ugandan economy. The proprietors are optimistic that with a final investment decision made, small and medium enterprises will be empowered to make digital decisions.
So we're looking to host over thousands and thousands of computers and servers and computer switches and computer routers for the bare purpose of building an ecosystem where basically enterprises, telecoms, cloud service providers, SMEs can all basically meet in one location.
For more details and updates, check out our social media platforms. That's at Raxio UG on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Until next time, stay safe.